In this video, we're going to learn how to use functions in Excel to calculate the monthly payment for a car loan. We're also going to learn how to model this problem and prepare an amortization chart. So the problem that we have, you want to purchase a $25,000 car. You have $4,000 for a down payment. The interest rate is 6.25%, and you would like to finance over 5 years. Well, we can very easily solve this problem using the Pmt function. So I'm going to click in cell B5. I'm going to click the Formulas tab. In the Function Library group, I'm going to click Financial, and I'm going to scroll down until I see PMT. Now, PPMT is different. That's the principal payment. We want PMT, calculates the payment for a loan based on constant payments and a constant interest rate. So for the rate, I'm going to put in 6.25%, but because this is a monthly payment, I have to divide by 12. So I'm going to add a /12, and notice how it calculates 6.25% divided by 12 for me without me having to round or without me having to do the calculation. The number of periods, 5 years multiplied by 12 payments per year, 5 * 12 in the N per box will give us 60 total periods. And then the PV is going to be the amount we're financing. That is going to be $25,000 minus $4,000. So in the PV, I want to put in $21,000. Now, if I put in a positive $21,000, I get a negative answer because those are payments that I'm making. I spend money when I make payments. So if I'd like to get a positive number as the answer, I just put in negative 21000. Don't put commas in your formulas because notice in the formula bar, the commas separate the argument. So if you did 21,000 here in the PV with a comma, you would get a payment for $21 instead of $21,000. So we get an answer formula result, $408.43 a month. I click OK. And there we have our answer. But the problem with this is it's not very helpful for what-if analysis. So what happens if we can't afford $400 a month and we want to try maybe 6 years or try a higher down payment or a lower cost of the car? So notice I only need 4 pieces of information to calculate the payment: the cost of the car, the down payment, the interest rate, and the number of years. So using modeling, what I did is I put holder cells for each one of those numbers. So I put a holder cell in for the cost of the car, that's B8, a holder cell for the down payment, a holder cell for the interest rate, and a holder cell for the number of years. So now we're going to input the same formula, but what we're going to use is cell references instead of numbers. So when we change those cells, any cell from B8 to B11, we know that the answer is correct. So the first thing I'm going to do, this isn't 100% necessary, but it helps when we're constructing our formula. So the first thing I'm going to do is calculate the amount financed in cell B13. So I'm going to click in cell B13, type an equal sign, click on the cost of the car, cell B8, type a negative sign to subtract, and then subtract the down payment, cell B9. I'm going to hit enter, and notice how it calculates 21,000, but when I change any one of the numbers, notice how the amount financed also changes. So I'm going to change this back to 4,000 to keep with the same answer as before. So now I'm going to use the same formula that I used before, the PMT, but now instead of using the numbers, I'm going to use the cell references. So making sure you're still on that Formulas tab. In the Function Library group, I'm going to click Financial, and then scroll down until I see PMT. So this time for my rate, I'm going to click on cell B10, the 6.25%, and then /12. So notice it calculates the same number, but we're using the cell reference. So if we change the interest rate, then the cell will automatically recalculate. The monthly payment will automatically recalculate. In the number of periods, the N per box, I'm going to click on the number of years. I'm going to click on cell B11 and then asterisk multiply by 12. So notice I get the same 60 periods. And now this is why I calculated the amount financed. In the PV box, you're going to click in the PV box. You know that you're in the PV box because you see it down below. I'm going to type a negative sign for the same reason as before. If I don't type the negative sign, the answer comes out negative because it's payments we're making. And I'm just going to click on cell B13, the amount financed. Otherwise, I'd have to put a formula in here with the open parentheses where I take B8 and subtract B9. So notice we get exactly the same answer, 408.43, and I just click OK, but now it's superior because I can change any one of the numbers, and notice how the amount financed and the monthly payment is also immediately reflected in the formula. So right now, I'm going to go back to my original numbers, so 25,000, 4,000, and 5 years. Now let's calculate the total interest, and then we're going to learn how to amortize this loan. So the interest is the difference between what you borrow and what you pay back. The amount financed is what we've borrowed, and we're paying back 60 monthly payments. So we're going to calculate the sum total of the monthly payments and then subtract the amount financed. So in cell B16, I'm going to type an equal sign. I'm going to take the monthly payment, multiply it by the number of years. So I'm going to multiply it by cell B11, and then I'm going to multiply that by 12. So that is the sum total of all of the payments. 12 payments a year for 5 years of 408.43 is what we're paying back, and we're borrowing 21,000. So I'm going to subtract and then click on the amount financed, cell B13, hit enter, and over the 5-year period, you will pay a little over $3,500 in interest on this loan. So once again, we can now change any one of these numbers, and all of the answers in cells B13 to B16 will be absolutely correct. Now let's move on to our amortization chart. So I'm going to start off with my amortization chart. To make it a little bit easier to copy, I'm going to start off on month 0. And for those of you who are a little bit more advanced with Excel, I'm going to show you a way with an if statement to make this amortization chart just stop automatically. So if you put it for 4 years, it'll stop at the end of 4 years. If you put it for 8 years, it'll stop at the end of 8 years. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type the number 0 right under the month in cell A20. And then I'm going to type the number 1. Then what I want to do is I want to select both the 0 and the 1. If I only select the 0, I'll copy all zeros all the way down. If I only select the 1, I'll copy all 1s all the way down. So I want to select both of the cells. After selecting, what I want to use is the fill handle. It's that box in the bottom right-hand corner. And you know you have the box when your fat plus changes to a skinny plus. When you have a 4-headed arrow, that's something different. That's drag and drop. You have to hover over the box in the bottom right-hand corner and get your fat or bolded skinny black plus. Now I'm going to hold down my left mouse button and just drag this all the way down until my tooltip says 120, which would be 10 years, and most people don't take out 10-year car loans, so this would work for loans up to 10 years. So now I'm going to scroll up, and believe it or not, we're going to have one formula here, and then 4 formulas here, and then we're done. It doesn't matter how long it is, that's all we're going to need. So putting in the month 0 means that we can copy all of these formulas down on row 21 for month 1. If we didn't have a month 0, we would need a different formula here. So I'm going to click in cell E20, the ending balance for month 0, and that is going to be whatever amount we're going to finance because we're going to be paying off whatever we're financing. So I'm going to type an equal sign and then click on cell B13, the amount financed. I don't have to worry about relative and absolute cell references because I'm not going to copy this formula. Now for the beginning balance, month 1, what's going to happen is from this point forward, whatever is the ending balance the period before in principal, we're going to start off with that beginning balance principal the next month. So because our month 0 ended with 21,000, we're going to start off with 21,000 at month 0. To do that, I'm going to type an equal sign and then click on the 21,000, click on cell E20, and because that's a relative cell reference, as I copy it down, it'll move to E21, E22, E23. Now in cell C21, I want to calculate the amount of interest earned. So I'm going to use the principal times rate times time formula. So I'm going to type an equal sign that tells Excel that I'm entering in a formula. I'm going to click on cell B21, the beginning balance. Now I want that to be a relative cell reference because as I copy that down, I want it to point to B22 and then B23 and then B24. So I'm going to leave that as it is. Now I'm going to take the principal. I'm going to multiply it by the interest rate. So I'm going to type an asterisk and then click on cell B10, the interest rate. Now at this point, if I copy this down, it'll change the B10 to B11, B12, B13. I do not want it to do that. My interest rate is always contained in cell B10. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the F4 key. If you're using a laptop, you may have to hit the FN function, the FN key, at the bottom to hit your F4. If you're on a Mac, that's Command T, or you can always type the $sign. So I want to change the cell reference now to $B, $10. So as I copy it down, it will always point to that interest rate. So I have principal multiplied by interest rate. Now I have to multiply it by time. So you can either multiply it by 1/12 or just divide by 12. So now I'm going to type /12. 12 is a number, so I don't have to worry about the relative or absolute cell reference. And I'm going to hit enter. So the first month of the loan, you're going to pay $109.38 in interest. Now I'm going to click in cell D21. And for those of you who are less advanced in Excel, all you really have to do here is type an equal sign, click on cell B15, and then make sure to use that F4 key again. So I'm going to hold down my FN key and then hit F4 to change that to $B, $15. And then I could copy that all the way down. Now, if you're a little bit more advanced though, I'm going to use an if statement right now to tell it to stop when we get down to 0. So what would happen on this loan is we're going to keep amortizing it, but because of rounding, the last period, we're going to owe a little less than $408.43. So we might owe $407.95 or $406.84, whatever it is. So normally with a loan like that, your last payment is adjusted, normally by just $1 or $2, just because we're rounding. So over time, it won't round exactly to 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an if statement here. I'm going to tell Excel that as long as we owe more than the payment, and what we owe at this point is $21,000, $109.38 because we owe the beginning balance plus the interest. So I'm going to tell Excel that if we owe less than the sum of these two amounts, then the payment is going to be cell B15. Otherwise, it's just going to be the remaining amount. So I'm going to click in cell D21. I'm going to click the Formulas tab, and then Logical, and IF. So the if statement gives us a test, and then we tell Excel what to do if the test is true, and tell Excel what to do if the test is false. So my logical test is I'm going to ask if the beginning balance, so I'm going to open parentheses, is the beginning balance plus the interest, and I wanted to test that on each line, so I don't want to use the dollar signs, I want relative cell references. I'm going to close the parentheses. I'm going to ask if that amount is larger, so that's going to be shift period, the greater than sign. If the remaining balance that we have is greater than the monthly payment, so I'm going to click on cell B15, and because we have only one monthly payment, we want to make sure to hit that F4 key again. So I'm going to hit my FN and then F4 to change that to B15, because again, we only have one payment. So is the amount that we owe, is that greater than the monthly payment? Well, if it's true, then our payment is just going to be the monthly payment. So click in the value of true box, click on cell B15, and then once again hit that F4 key, Command T on your Mac, or just type the dollar sign so you have $B, $15. So it sets that cell reference, and later on in the semester I'll show you a problem where you actually use a mixture of the relative and absolute cell references. Well, if it's false, if we owe less than the payment, then that payment is just going to be adjusted to the amount remaining. So the value of false is just going to be the beginning balance plus the interest for that period. So in the value of false, I'm going to click on cell B21 and then add B22. So notice this becomes false. Our payment is $408.43. I click OK. And now the last formula that we need is to calculate the ending balance. So we start off owing $21,000. The interest makes us owe more, and the payment makes us owe less. So in cell E21, I'm going to type an equal sign. I'm going to tell Excel to start off with the beginning balance. I'm going to click on cell B21. I'm going to add the interest that I incurred on the loan. So I'm going to add cell C21 and then subtract cell D21. That is it. And by the way, this would also work exactly the same for a house payment. So you could use it unadjusted for a house payment, but you'd want to pull your amortization chart down to at least 360 payments, because it's very common for mortgages to go 30 years. In fact, even nowadays, sometimes they go a little bit more than 30 years. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit enter. At the end of the first month, we owe $20,700 on the loan. I'm going to select cells B21 out to E21, and now in one fell swoop, I'm just going to double click the fill handle because I've already filled in the month numbers. Excel knows how far to go down. And you're going to notice that when we get to 60, it's just going to stop, and we'll have all zeros after that. So this amortization chart just stops. It calculates the total amount of interest that we have to pay every single period. And also at the end of every month, it shows us the remaining principal balance on the loan, how much we'd have to pay it off or refinance. Okay, just two more things that I'd like to show you. First, if we change the number of years to 7, the period is going to change from 60 to 84. So watch, it's going to stop after 84 periods if I change the number of years from 5 to 7. So I'm just going to click in cell B11, type the number 7, and hit enter. And I'm going to scroll down my amortization chart and notice that it goes past 60 and it stops dead at 84. And I'm going to fix that in a moment with the second thing that I want to do. So the second thing that I want to do, we might want to format the numbers all the same way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the range B20, go all the way down to E140. I'm going to select the entire amortization chart. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the Home tab. In the number group, I'm going to click the down arrow on the bottom right-hand corner. What I'm going to do on the left-hand side is I'm going to single-click number. I'm going to click the Use Thousand Separator. I'm going to bring it down to 0 decimal places, and the negative number doesn't apply because we're not going to have negative numbers. I'm going to click OK. And we can see here that our amortization chart is now to the nearest dollar. If you'd like to have it to the penny, we can change the decimal places to 2 by clicking that down arrow on the number and click OK. And now everything looks very nice, and we could do the same thing with the other numbers as well. So I hope you enjoyed our lesson on a car payment calculator.